Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Eugene Grappa. I am today's producer. We have as a host Quentin Appleby, who will be hosting today's topic, Startup Fundraising in Frankfurt and in Germany, how to raise money. Quentin, you want to take over?
Thank you very much, Eugenio. My name is Quentin Appleby. I'm a founder of a startup program I started last year in Cologne. As part of the FI program, I actually graduated from Cologne. My company does data analytics for fitness studios. But I actually live near Frankfurt, just west in Wiesbaden, where my company's based. And that's how I got involved with the FI program here in Frankfurt. So startups and entrepreneurialism is really close to my heart. I love this ecosystem. I love founders and hanging out and talking business. And that's why I'm so happy to be here tonight and hosting this program. We have some great speakers, 5 speakers. We're gonna be moving pretty quick, 10 to 15 minutes each. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. So as we go, if you have any questions, just write them right in the chat. We'll be collecting those and asking people so you can get your answers right on the spot. Tonight, we've got some great speakers. Mr. Johannes Laub is the founder and managing director of CrowdDesk. CrowdDesk provides a leading platform that enables businesses to raise capital online. He's also a managing director of the crowd investing platform Grundag. Before that, he co-founded the crowd investing platforms Leih deiner Stadtgeld and Leih deiner Umweltgeld. We also have Mr. PHILIPP Weber. He's recognized by Handelsblatt as one of the best M&A lawyers in 2020 here in Germany. He's highly experienced in startup funding. He's a member of the advisory board of Wingcopter. He's helped founders and investors through every legal aspect of running companies. And of course, he's a partner at FPS, one of the major law firms in Frankfurt and here in Germany, focusing especially on venture capital and mergers and acquisitions. In terms of tonight, FPS and their experience in private equity and venture capital is, of course, of particular importance. They've got an excellent network of contacts all around Germany and in Europe. If you're thinking about raising private money, I can highly recommend their law firm. Mr. Karsten Helbig is an entrepreneur. I met him as part of the Frankfurt program in the last cohort. He started a company there. He's also running a successful event agency called gaudetours.de. He started his company Better World, Better People, and that's what he's going to talk about tonight, and raising government money. As part of that discussion, Gudrun Lantelme works for TU Darmstadt, the University of Darmstadt. She was recently promoted to the head of startup management, so congratulations to you, Gudrun. TU Darmstadt has an interesting mission because they do a lot of research and scientific advancements, especially in areas like artificial intelligence, new energy, manufacturing, IT security. And one of their missions is to try to get some of that information out into society, and they do that by partnering with startup companies. So if you've got something somehow related to that work that Darmstadt's doing, Gudrun can help you. They provide free consulting, free networking and introductions, and they can even pair you with people working in the university to try to get some of that research out to help your company. Gudrun also helps people find public money and to write applications for it. So she's going to be talking a little bit about that. And Mr. Tone Steenwinkel, I met Tone as part of the FI program last year in Cologne, where he's a major force. Tone has over 30 years of experience in management. He's also served on boards, worked in the Netherlands, Middle East, USA, and here in Germany. He's been responsible for areas like marketing, product development, management, sales, business development. Worked for big corporations like Nixdorf, Siemens, Bosch, DuPont, Compare. It's been responsible for sales over $200 million with 400 full-time employees. He's a founding member of Angel Engine, which is an association of business angels in the Dusseldorf area. And we're also very fortunate that he enjoys mentoring startups. And I've been on the receiving end of some of that, and I'm very thankful for all the help that Tone's provided me. He's really helped me understand the investor perspective and helped me to pitch better to investors. Let's see, we're gonna start with Mr. Tone Steenwinkel, so I will hand that over to him. If you have questions, please put them in the chat and we will collect them and we'll have that Q&A session at the end. Take it away, Tone.
Okay. I think it's the green button now. Can you see my screen?
Perfect, Tone.
All right. So thank you, Quentin, for inviting me. I have a weak spot for Frankfurt since my wife and I lived very close to Frankfurt in Kronberg for I think something like 12 years. So I'm very familiar with the Frankfurt area. And unfortunately, it's all on the screen now. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the funding options, the identifying investors, expectations from investors, your pitch and documents, and fundraise readiness and planning and timing, and what you're going to do, what you should do with the money. When we talked about the finance cycle, I guess this is the most important part where we're talking about today, is that in the startup phase, before you really are making an awful lot of money, and you need in the seed phase, the startup phase, before you really hit the sales, investors, people who finance your company. And in the founding phase, you can live off your savings, bootstrapping, family and fools, business angels. There are banks who might want to give you some money in the various federal state, the KfW bank loans, venture capital, family offices, crowdfunding, high-tech Gründerfonds, which is, I'm going to talk about it later as well, incubated accelerators, Invest 2.0 and ERP founder credits. In the early phase, in the growth phase, you can read much quicker than I can talk. And you see that the more you go to revenue and growth phase, the family and fools are disappearing and professional investors take over. Now, the question is, where is the money? And where is the financing, the subsidies, the grants, the loans? And it's really what I unfortunately have to call the finance jungle. How do we identify investors? Well, I'm mainly going to talk about business angels, being one myself. Where do you meet them? You meet them at pitching events, and I suggest you participate in as many pitching events as you can handle. You can write to them, you can send them your pitch. There are, I'm going to show that to you later, organizations. We also, as Angel Engine, offer a consulting hour or an hour and a half, which is free of charge, where you can, if you have an idea, it doesn't have to be a complete pitch, but you can ask for advice and say, is this something you would like to have a look at? And we do that, and we always try to find the business angel which is most suitable. In many startup areas, you have demo days, sometimes organized by digital hubs, where there are a lot of them in, quite a few of them in North Rhine-Westphalia. But you can also write to the business angel network here in Germany and say, look, I'm looking for money. And also a good way to find business angels and to meet them, to talk to them, is participate in conferences and business plan competitions. Unfortunately, due to Mrs. Corona, the live events with physical presence are less, but the good news is you can participate in many conferences using Zoom or some other clever video stuff. What does a business angel do? A business angel provides startups with money on the one hand, and on the other side with entrepreneurial know-how and networking We call that smart money. And what drives us, basically, we pass on our experience and we offer help. And of course, we like to do useful investment, but it's mainly our passion for setting up new businesses, new developments. It's going on an adventure with a startup, and which should also be fun. So that's our task as a business angel. There is a business angel network in Germany with over 1,500 members, Business Angel Network Germany. They will provide you can write to them, you can submit a form saying, look, this is what we do. It's a 1 or 2 pager. So all the members get that. So you have a lot of visibility there. It's the same kind of network in the Netherlands. They are a little bit better organized. And if you have any trouble in connecting to these organizations, you can always contact me. I'm well connected. And there is also a European organization of business angels with over 40,000 members. And it's always difficult to find the right one, of course, but that's what life is. How do we select startups? We had a lot of discussions, and quite a few of us have a financial background, business administration. You talk about KPIs, and it's basically, and I must admit, it was me who said, you look, we have to fall in love with the idea which the startup presents. And if you like the idea, if you fall in love with it, once we have fallen in love, we will take the next steps, and next steps will then follow. And you only have one chance to fall in love, because we're seeing well over 300 pitches per year. So you have to make a good impression and ensure that we fall in love with your idea. Then you can read it yourself. Then we have the first assessment of the idea. Then we talk about, in your pitch, we want to see a business model, financials, validation of customers. And then based on the first impression, we say, okay, let's go ahead with the potential candidates, evaluate them, and develop a common view. And then we look at the concrete plans and documents which are available. And then detailed analysis and appraisals and joint meetings will follow. We'll check the software if applicable. And then hopefully we come to an agreement. And we have 35 members, and probably another 5 will join us next month. So it's really taking off the business angel relationship. That is, the relationship should be based on trust. You have to have, we have fallen in love, and then we have to build up trust in this relationship. That is very important, and both parties have to work on it. And the first impression is, of course, always the most important one. The product idea, does it solve a relevant product? Is it innovative, disruptive? Is it impressive? If it's a technology thing, it should be presented in an understandable way. Customer validation is important. Did you speak to customers? Have you done test surveys? Have you analyzed the market nationally and internationally? And have you an appealing, attractive proposition to the customer? And last but not least, are customers willing to pay for it? And that's always the case. The business model is important, should be very condensed, but well presented, well written. Value proposition is personally one of my favorites. Have you identified what you are going to offer to solve the customer's problems or wishes? And then there should be clear, defined revenue streams and a market entry. It would be nice if you already have a minimal viable product and execution. We must have, the investors must have an impression that the team can make it happen based on the ability and the resources of the team and the determination of the team. You have to be enthusiastic, and of course planning is important. And I always say plan is always a lie. The plan never happens, but if you have no plan, then it is useless to start a business. Very important, make sure that your pitch as well as your business plan can be understood by 14-year-old children. These people, including the business angels, they do not know your business, so no industry slang and abbreviations. We were just Monday evening talking about a technology company, and their pitch was awful. Nobody understood what they were talking about. And then it's a pity, but nobody will have a look at it. Nobody wants to invest money. The next step, of course, is the venture capitalist. We will have one of the speakers will talk about that. Normally, it's not in the seed phase, but sometimes it happens. They are focusing more on the financing part, less on the support. Our members have a lot of experience in certain areas. My specialties are marketing, sales, and setting up international businesses. I've been responsible for 56 companies in the world, so I know a little bit what it takes to set up and expand a business. That is not the focus of the venture capitalist. Where do you find them? Word of mouth, ask other startups and buy addresses, and of course the internet. We're going to look at the finance jungle. There are well over 2,000 subsidy programs in Germany. Here are just a few of them. I won't mention any one of them because it's difficult to find the right one. Also very important, good to know, is that the European Union is spending a lot of money on the Horizon Europe research program, and up to 2027, 120 billion. And here you see the focus point: health, culture, creativity, civil security for society, digital, industry, space, climate, energy, bio, natural resources, and in digital key technologies, 9.2 billion to be spent. It's not easy to get that money, but do it and have a look at it. Here's Bundesländer. In Germany, there are every country, Bundesland has its own national bank, and they all have national programs, subsidy programs, and I'm very aware of what's happening in North Rhine-Westphalia. I cannot help you with any ideas on what subsidy opportunities there are in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern or in Bavaria, but they're there, and it's really easy to find that out. All over Germany, you have Exist, which helps. It's an excellent program which provides quite a lot of money for a founder team of 3 people over a period of a year, and it's research and development transfer, particularly for people coming out of business schools and universities. The High-Tech Gründerfonds is a fund based on money from the government as well as private people, and they are, as the word says, focusing on high-tech businesses and high-tech developments. I just give you one idea about a subsidy in North Rhine-Westphalia. If a business angel here invests 100,000 euro, or a group of business angels, in the NRW.SEEDCAP program, the bank, the NRW bank, which is just not far from here, also puts up 100,000. They mirrored it, and rumor has it that they're going to increase this 100,000 and make it a little bit more. The leading partner is the business angel. So that is quite nice, and it's a convertible loan, but you must have your headquarters in North Rhine-Westphalia. There is also an invest grant for risk capital called the BAFA, and it's for business angels. And here, if they receive 20% back on their investment, and so if they invest 10,000 euros, they will get from the government 20% of the 10,000. It goes up as far as an investment of 500,000, and 20% of that's a lot of money. So per investor, maximum of 100,000. You must have that as a, but it's easy to ask for it. As a startup, you must do that. In the finance jungle, you need, if you set up your business coming from a business school, university, there are most likely to be professors or lecturers or a study consultant who can help you there. You need help from a business angel. There are specialized consultants who know all the subsidy programs in the various states, in the federal states, and you can go to the federal states banks and of course the Chamber of Commerce. The IHK is a source of information, and you also need good luck. What do we expect? The investors, that you have some traction, so a proof of concept, that you maybe have a little bit revenue. Nobody finances ID. So if somebody comes and says, I have a brilliant idea, that's what I want to do. We want to see more proof, we want to see traction. What do we expect? We expect that you're well prepared for trainings and for presentations and discussions. So train, train, train. So you should also be able to answer all the questions. Don't send a techie to a presentation for investors, because the two won't read. As a founder, or even if it's another person, maybe one of your marketing person, if he or she is a better presenter, then do it, but make sure that you can answer all the questions. Now, there is a tendency to look at the middle of this complicated slide. You know, once my product is ready, it will sell automatically. But this just shows there are many issues to talk about. And I have a training course for product managers, and I talk about it for these things for 2 days. By the way, if somebody wants to have a copy of my presentation, Quinten has a PDF, and or you can write to me. I'll gladly send it to you so you can have a look what I said. What do you need to talk to an investor, a business angel? And I won't read all of them. You must have a kind of a business model, a canvas, including the value proposition. Of course, a pitch, and sometimes 2 pitches, one for techies, one for more salesy oriented, and of course figures, business plan summary with the financials. Those 3 things are a must, and if once you have those, you can start talking to a business angel, and all these other things come later. And like I said, all plans are lies, because they will always change on the road. Again, 14-year-old children, they know nothing about your business. So therefore, keep it simple, stupid. I won't go, because of time constraints, into the pitch and documents, but you can find it in the handout if that's what you, if you're interested, but you can find it everywhere. Pitch is the first impression, and that's very important for me and for your audience. And other documents are, of course, the business plan, fundraise readiness, and all your documents should be available. Traction is very important, and you have to be very good in pitching, train, sell yourself, sell your company, and present yourself enthusiastically, and you are the expert on the problems you want to solve. And it's just more than software or hardware. Now, a word of caution: obtaining finance or subsidies, it'll take you something like 6 months. Also subsidies, 3 to 6 months. Can be a little bit quicker, but normally not, so that's it. Make sure that you state quite clearly what you do with the money. Put it into marketing, sales, product development, organization, IT. Don't mention in the business plan, in the financial, that you're going to pay the founders an awful lot of money and that you're finally going to buy a couple of fat company cars. And maybe you're laughing, but I've seen business plans saying, yeah, we need all big leasing cars and we give ourselves a good salary. And then the investor says, but not from my money. I'm repeating myself saying, if you want to talk to us, go to our website of Angel Engine and say, I want to talk, I want to do this, and this. Can I talk to one of your people, your business angel, who is the best fit? And then for later on, if you have questions, please. If not, thank you. And we'll talk a little bit later. Here is my contact information. And would be very happy to get in touch with you. And don't be shy to ask for help, because we have made all the mistakes. We want to prevent you from being so good that you have to do the same mistakes over and over again. So we'll be glad to help. That was it.
Thank you very much, Toon.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. That was a lightning round of the fundraising landscape. Next up, we have Johannes Laub. He is the founder and managing partner of CrowdDesk. Go ahead, Johannes.
Yeah, thanks, Quentin. Thanks, Toon, for the great introduction and the great presentation. Me as a founder myself would have loved to have this presentation a couple of years ago. I probably would have avoided some painful mistakes, but yeah, we're all on the way to learn here. The next couple of minutes, I will talk a little bit about our company and the mistakes I made, and probably some things went out quite right, and the solution that we sell, or that we provide to customers, for starting from startups, going to big companies like the DKB Bank. They use our funding as a service solution, and I will put in some experiences I've made along the way, along the presentation. And as Toon said, yeah, please just start asking, because that's the fastest way you can learn without making the mistake for yourself. So I will share my presentation. The whole desktop is easiest way. So you can all see the presentation, I assume.
Yes.
Cool. To give you a short introduction of what our service is, what we are doing, I always start with vision. I know for some of you guys, a vision is kind of far away, and I used to work for banks and for big corporations, and when they talked with me about a vision in the onboarding period, I was always, okay, I want to work here, I don't want to sell or consume a vision in some kind of way. But the longer you work on a project, and the moment when you want to start convincing somebody, you want to make somebody fall in love with your idea, with your concept, with your project, you're actually selling a vision. And we put that in our word, that our vision is to give free access to capital. Yeah, that sounds pretty far away. What do we mean with that? We think that the capital market is not as democratized as it should be. So this is why we want to tear down some borders. I will come to that later. The very important distinguish I have to make in that moment is that we are not in the so-called crowdfunding industry. The Germans use their own English words. We call it crowd investing. The difference is when you go funding, it's like Germany as well. When you in a German jurisdiction, you talk about donations. So money you don't have to give back to anybody. You can give back rewards, or you can give back products. But the moment you give back money, it becomes a totally different game. And that's the game we are playing. So the market, just 2 seconds about that. We are in, it's like 18 billion big. So in Europe last year, in 2018, 18 billion euros were funded via platforms like we provide. So you see, it's not a tiny niche thing that started some couple of years ago from crazy guys like me. So it's really become a resourceful and meaningful alternative to raise capital. When we talk about raising capital, there are different kinds of capital. Tone made a very good, or gave you a very good overview of raising equity, I would call it. So when we talk about the first part, equity, what is equity actually? It's money you collect from investors, and the contract is quite open. You don't have a due date. You don't have to pay fixed dividends or fixed normally or fixed interest rates. So that's the highest risk somebody takes is giving you equity, because equity always takes the first loss. And that's why from a founder perspective, giving or collecting equity will always be by definition the most expensive capital you can raise. But for many startups, for many projects, it's the only way to raise capital, because if you don't have any other source, you have to go for equity. And the good thing is when you get that handed out by a business angel, they help you build the business. Our company started with business angels as well. We acquired them. We had 2 teams. They were interested in investing in the company. One was here from Frankfurt. We met them at the IHK, at the Börse, where we pitched. We had the techie with us, but he's kind of a guy who can talk, so it was a good thing. And we had another team that we met in Cologne at a business pitch event, so a business plan competition. We were very good at writing business plans in the first hand. But the thing is, the business angels we contracted then, one of them is still with us. So, and that was like 10 years ago. So you see, whenever you enter a contract like that, it's lasting longer than the average marriage. So really look out for whom you settle with. The most important tip I can give you on that point in your career: make reference calls. Ask them where they have invested, why they have invested, how much they have invested. The really good investors will be very open with that. They will give you like five companies they have invested in. Just call the founders and talk about how they behaved, what were the benefits, what was the downsides. A business angel can't always be the nice guy, so he has to show some edge on some points in life. But as long as he treats you fair, that's how the deal is made in the beginning. From my experience, we had a very good business angel who understood the business. On the other hand, we had a business angel who comes from the real estate industry, and he was the only interest he had was getting more percentage of the company. So we ended up like that he has the majority of the company. And when you don't have any revenue and you're just in the beginning of starting a company, it's the worst thing you can have is that as a business angel who isn't doing the work has the majority of the company. We were able to correct that. We could heal the so-called cap table, but please don't make the mistake and don't ask where he has invested and what were references he has. So much at that point from my experience. So we talked about equity, and all of you probably have heard of debt capital. What does debt capital actually mean? It's normally provided by banks. They give you a very clear contract when you have to pay the money back and what kind of interest you pay. The disadvantages, they will take the last loss. So they will get the first money when everything, things go southwards. And normally as a startup, you don't have the numbers, the track record to get any debt. A good alternative, and that's the capital that actually is most raised via crowd investing, or equity-based crowdfunding, is mezzanine capital. Mezzanine has some characteristics of equity and some of debt. So for instance, you normally have a interest rate, a fixed interest rate, but in most cases you only pay that at the end. You have to have a due date, but you don't have to pay the money back at the due date if that leads to the insolvency of your company. So in that event, actually the mezzanine capital turns to equity, and you won't go insolvent, you won't go bankrupt with when you had to pay the money back. That's why most of the startups we service with choose mezzanine capital. Our service, to give you some insight, is that we give startups a software and the legal framework to go actually through. Tone put it a very, very colorful and a very good picture to give you, we see ourselves as rangers that guide you through the capital jungle when raising crowd capital. So our software is very easy to set up. You can start with raising 50,000, going up to normally 6 million is a useful number, and you can do that over via Europe. You can do that completely digital without handing any sheet of paper, and you could do that for different kinds of capital. So you could raise with our software. You could raise equity, debt, or mezzanine. What I would recommend normally is when doing a campaign is the mezzanine part. The last couple of minutes I would spend with examples I have brought you, because as we know, examples speak the loudest. A company we serviced like 2 years ago, so very early in our beginning, is Cyrene. Cyrene is a company who started actually in Mainz-Kastel, so Wiesbaden. I'm born in Mainz, so for me it's still Mainz-Kastel, not Wiesbaden, where everybody who knows the local geopolitical things going on here. They approached us. We actually met them at the dinner party, and they talked about that they had a long history in their startup because they pivoted 2 times, I guess. And they said they met so many people along the way that helped them a lot, and they don't needed the money at that point. They had a couple of €100,000 in their bank account, but they said, hey, we want to get the people more involved, these guys more involved in our company, and give them the opportunity to actually invest in our company. Sure, more cash doesn't hurt when you are a startup. It's always the cash in the end that decides if you fail or not. So what I will do now is I will go to the website that we together built for them, because a campaign to do campaign can be very easy. In that case, as I said, they had the network already, so they just put together the website. We gave them the information they needed. We gave them the legal framework, the contracts you need to fulfill such a campaign, and with that they raised €120,000 in just a couple of days. So all in all, it was very easy for them to raise the capital. the thing is, they are a B2B startup. What they actually do, probably some of you guys know them, they digitize the buying experience when you go to a supermarket. So not something you can win at a dinner party with when you say, okay, I'm the one who makes your experience at buying in Aldi really good because you don't see me actually. They're really behind the scenes. Did I say B2C? I mean B2B startup. So they are really, you probably will never know that you have seen them or worked with them. So they are, in that case, it's probably harder to get a network to obtain, to gather investors, because we all know the Höhle der Löwen startups, they always normally have a B2C approach, so that you as a guy who watches TV says, I can see myself buying the product. That's something that Cyrene couldn't do. But with their family and friends program, they had a huge success. They raised more capital than they actually thought they would do. And what they actually handed out was mezzanine capital. So as I said, you have to have a due date. They put it by 2025. They put up a base, actually floor, base interest rate. So each year they pay out 1% in interest rate. So that doesn't hurt normally. But when they get an exit case, then you have a virtual share in that exit case. If they don't have an exit in this time frame, you will have at least the interest rate of 15% combined, or IRR in hindsight. So with that campaign, they really fulfilled all their wishes. They're at this stage considering raising even more capital via crowd investing. The second thing I want to show you is really much more bigger project that's just in the making. Some of you guys are interested in the market, so they might have heard of Sono Motors. Sono Motors is a startup from Munich. They are building a really great electro vehicle that has solar panels on the roof, and actually all the outside is made of solar panels, and it's really really interesting startup. And they made campaigns in the beginning of when they started, where they they started with a business angel, then they got VC money, then they made campaigns via normal crowd investing platforms, and the third or the fourth step was actually doing their own white label campaign via CrowdDesk, via our software. With that, they raised up today 2.4 million euro in cash. For that money, they pay interest rate of 6%. They don't have any exit case in that in their offer. So you see that the offer you can make is really flexible. It just has to fit your needs. They made a campaign all over Europe, so you can invest in German or in English. And the thing is, the investing is made very easy. They put more effort in the campaign, as Cyrene did. So they wrote a little bit more about their project. They made a video. They handed out some documents. But all in all, the campaign started in a couple of weeks. And the only thing you have to do as an investor is push the invest now button. And what happened now? And sorry, and I will do that again, because otherwise you probably don't believe me that it's so easy. You just put the you push the invest now button, then you get in the totally legally compliant process where you can invest up to 25,000 euros in their startup, and they are really happy with that. Yeah, actually, I won't go into detail what we are offering. I think I hope you got an impression of what is what you are capable of doing with hosting your own crowd investing campaign. If you want to do so, I have Dennis with me. He is an associate at the Founders Institute. So we are really happy to help you, because I'm, as a founder myself, really want to help you guys starting your business and leaving your dent in the universe. That's probably the thing why we're all here. Thank you.
Thanks, Johannes. That was really interesting. I think, like a lot of founders, I've spent a huge amount of time looking at private and public money, but I have not looked at like these alternative ideas like crowd investing. So I'm going to check your site out tomorrow. Thank you for that. Next up, we've got Philipp Weber. He is a partner at FPS and highly experienced in startup funding. So I'm really looking forward to what he has to say. Go ahead, Philipp.
Thanks all. Thanks for having me on this great panel, and thanks for Ton and Johannes for their great presentation. And thanks for the kind introduction. I'm an equity partner with the M&A and Venture Capital Department of FPS, and I'm advising a portfolio of over 6 investors and more than 15 startups on venture capital financing. With my team, I'm doing over 20 financing rounds per year. And I'm really also happy to be a mentor to many startups here in Frankfurt region, with the Unibator at the Frankfurt University and with the TU Darmstadt. I know all the perspectives from the startups and from the investor side, and in particular from the corporate investor side, because corporate venture capital has become more and more important in European and German venture capital deals. So from my experience, in particular in the space of fintech and proptech, in at least every second deal you see corporate venture capital investors. And I think this is a trend going to continue, maybe a bit interrupted by Corona. In the next 10 minutes, I would like to share, in a nutshell, my experience with how to successfully close a venture capital financing round here in Frankfurt region. I would like to start with a picture. It's a bit similar what Ton presented on his first slide, because what you as a founder have to understand is the life cycle of your startup. You're starting with an idea and you're aiming for an exit. Exit meaning the sale of all the shares to a big corporate or a successful IPO. However, also in 50% of the cases, there will never be an exit because down the road, people will wind down the company or stop working on the project for several reasons, but that's why it's called venture capital. So it's a kind of interesting journey which starts with an idea and which always starts with a team. And you distinguish between certain phases of venture capital funding, the early stage and the later stage. And each stage, as already Ton explained to you, has its unique means of financing and its unique investors. So you would not approach a later stage investor when you're an early stage startup. Easiest from my point of view here in Frankfurt to raise money is having at least a prototype which you can present to potential investors or business angels. When you're really an expert in your field, or you're a successful entrepreneur, so-called serial entrepreneur, you could just raise money with a pitch deck, but that's more the exception than the rule. So what I see is at least a prototype or even a proof of concept, which with some test customers. And what you also need to understand is that well, growing a startup is not a fast race, it's more like a marathon. So from the idea to an exit, it's more often more than 7 to 10 years or even longer. And when you are planning your rounds of financing, be it with business angels or with investors, you always have to ask yourself, what are my financing requirements? And how much money do I need to, as a rule of thumb, to survive the next, I would say, at least 18 months? Because you are raising money not for all the way down, but for the next milestone. So when you have a prototype, you will raise money which takes you to the maybe mass production or the production of the first series of the product. When you have the first companies, you might raise money to scale up, to build a distribution organization or sales organization, something like that. And by rule of thumb, this takes about, from my experience, 18 to 24 months. Sometimes people are faster when it's just 12 months, but so you should always look for money which takes you to the next step, ideally. So it's just a rule of thumb. There are always exceptions because life is colorful. We already talked about the means of funding. I would like just to mention a very important means of funding for early stage startups. It's a convertible loan. In particular, when you cannot agree on a valuation of your company, I would advise you, when you are negotiating with business angels or investors, to think about a convertible loan, because the magic of the convertible loan is that it's treated as equity, but it converts, and it converts at the valuation or with a discount at the valuation at the next round of financing. So you do not have to agree on the valuation right away. You just have to agree on a rate of interest rate and a discount. You do not have to agree on all the further deal terms. It's a kind of a very simple contract which you can negotiate within a couple of days. And then you have secured the required funding. What's very, very important, and from my experience, a lot of early stage founders don't make themselves familiar with, is the process. Because the process to secure venture capital financing from business angels, from professional investors, from corporate investors is always quite similar. It always starts with a pitch deck where you present your team, your solution to a problem, the market, the growth opportunities, where you maybe explain your valuation or the KPIs for your valuation. And then you do not start negotiating the complete package of the deal documentation, consisting in particular of the investment agreement, shareholders agreement, etc. So you always start with negotiating the major deal terms. Yeah, it's just could be a list of bullet points, and it's called term sheet or letter of intent, something around that. And here you start, and you should try to negotiate the deal terms with as many investors or interested investors as possible, and to compare the deal terms and to select then the best fit. Following the negotiation of a term sheet, some investors, not all, in particular business angel, don't do it, at least not in that depth. a due diligence. It could be a technical due diligence, it could be a legal due diligence, could be a financial due diligence, where the people or the potential investors look at your solution, your products, your documents, your legal documents, yeah, and where the investor tries to identify any risk. When you're negotiating with professional investors, you always should know that the people you're discussing with, they cannot only decide whether to invest in you or not. Often they have to report to an investment committee, or you even have to pitch in front of that investment committee. And the investment committee then decides on the basis of a proposal prepared by that investment manager whether to invest or not. And after the go by the investment committee, or in most cases after this go, you will then negotiate the final documents with the investor by help of your lawyers, and the investor will also use his lawyers, in particular when they are corporate or professional venture capital investors. Some business angels just do it on their own because they are familiar with the deal terms, and they know that you have to save costs and efforts. And then a deal is closed, you receive your money. The venture capital documentation, it's when you're really going for a seed round, a Series A round, it's about at least 60 pages of documents consisting of an investment agreement. Basically, the content is how much percentage of your company do I get for my money? And then the shareholders agreement is all about control and the governance of the company and exit rules. And then you have other documentation like the articles of association, rules of procedure, service agreements, etc. And as I said before, this is at least 60 pages, in most cases more. And to save time and costs, and to really negotiate the crucial points with the investors, you should always use a term sheet. And this is my advice for founders, because often it's said the investor will prepare the term sheet. My approach when I advise founders is quite different. I always say to the founder team, develop your own term sheet. And there are two reasons for that. First reason is the founders then get familiar with the deal terms because they really think through the terms and they ask questions. What does pre-money valuation mean? What is a veto right? Yeah, what is an anti-dilution protection or a down round protection? What is a liquidation preference? They start asking the right questions, and they are starting asking that questions to a person who wants to help them and not a person they are negotiating against. This is the first reason. The second reason is when you present a term sheet to multiple business angels or investors and they comment on your term sheet and your deal terms, you can easily compare the deal terms, and you can select the best deal. Because in particular, when you want to increase or optimize valuation, there is a value of your company which you can calculate based on KPIs such as turnover multiples or discounted cash flow or projected discounted cash flow, etc. And there is a price. The price is set by the market. And when you're only negotiating with one business angel or with one investor, the price is what the other person tells you he's willing to pay for your company. So to increase the price, you always have to talk to multiple people. And the basis for this is, from my perspective, a term sheet. I will skip this slide with the deal terms. I will have a separate presentation during the Founder Institute program on this. And I will focus on my 6 items of advice. First of all, and Ton already told you that, prepare your pitch deck. Yeah, really prepare a great pitch deck. Then get familiar with venture capital deal terms in the process. This is very important. Even if the business angel and the investor you are talking to tell you you don't need a lawyer because we don't have a lawyer either. Yeah, they don't have a lawyer because they are familiar with the terms of what they are talking about. Then prepare your term sheet. Get an idea regarding your evaluation and regarding the financing volume, because you cannot negotiate with business angels and investors when you don't know how much money you need. Identify the potential sources of funding. Yeah, it could be equity, it could be subsidies. Ton presented you all the funding opportunities, and find out what's the best fit for you, and identify potential investors, and then pitch. Now during Corona times, this is very, very hard. That's really a pity. But I really advise you to go out to the market and pitch, because people will get to know your startup, your idea, and you get feedback. And really, you need as much feedback as you can get to improve your idea, to improve your pitch deck, etc. And then build up competition. I would never advise you to negotiate only with one party. I would, even as an early stage, for an early stage round, always negotiate with several investors. And I would always try to get the best fit. And also what Ton already mentioned is very important. It's not only about money, it's also about advice, etc., and other added value which an investor or business angel can bring to the table. It's about smart money. So the most amount of money must not be the best deal. You really should look at what the investor else brings to the table. And another important aspect is also whether an investor could do a next round or could provide for bridge funding when it turns out that the funding volume is not sufficient to reach the next milestone or to collect the next round of financing. Also, during our Founders Institute sessions, we will talk about what you must do to get investor ready from a legal side. So when you join the program, we will talk about this during Founder Institute program. That's it from my side. Should you have any questions, you could find my contact details on LinkedIn. Just drop me an email there or give you a call. I'm happy to meet you for a coffee or lunch. And I'm also more than happy to send you the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. That was a great presentation. And I think your free lunch or coffee is the best deal going in the legal industry. One of my life goals is to do a Series A round and hire you to represent me. We'll see if we get there. Next up, we've got Karsten Helbig, who is a graduate of the FI program from last year, as well as Gudrun Lantelme, who assisted him with raising money from a public source. So they're both going to tell us about that. Go ahead.
Good. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you very much for being here tonight. I'm on your side, I would say. I'm a graduate of this nice program, FI Founders Institute. And I can say for myself, with all these informations I got from these guys over there, building a digital product, which I did, was really helpful. I think everybody of you got so many informations out of these nice presentations of the other people right now. I would ask you, normally, I would ask you a question, what did you get out of these presentations, what these people gave you? What I got out of these presentations, especially of the one of Tone, he had painted on his presentations some nice green sacks where the word euro was written in, right, Tone? You had some nice sacks full of money in these presentations. And this is what I really want to tell everybody out there listening today, right now, there's so much money out there you can't even imagine. Now you need to know how to get it. And this is what I like to tell you a little bit about. I'm 45 years right now. I'm self-employed for almost 22 years. I founded my first company with 18, but it didn't succeed. So my next venture was when I was 21, 22. This is my actual company and an event agency. I founded several other things, but they didn't work out. And right now I'm trying the next one with a digital product. And I learned a lot of at Founders Institute. What I can tell you that there's enough money outside. You only need to get it, and how to get it, this is the thing I want to tell you about. Just imagine you have an idea and you have something you want to tell the world, and you want to solve a problem and you want to do something. I can tell you from my personal perspective that money follows attention. Everybody of all the presentators before me said almost the same thing. You need to present yourself, you need to have a good idea, and you need to know how it's working, right? As long as you know how it's working, and these guys, when you listen close to them, then you know almost everything and you need to dive into it. When you know how to do it, then you can do it. The money is outside. So the first thing you and I needed to understand that money doesn't come to you without any work, without any effort, right? So it took me a really, really long time to get the grant, which I get for my latest venture, which I founded in, I think it was in October last year. And it's a digital program where we try to get, where we try to erase all these digital, or these paper-backed manuals, right? When you buy an IKEA wardrobe, or when you want to do something and you need to have a tutorial for it, then our solution will provide you a digital solution for it. So you need to be willing to exert this effort to get the money. You need to have a nice idea for it, how to get it. And when you have this, when you really know, then when you really have the fire inside you, then you really can do it. And I can tell you how I did it right now. So when you just imagine, I did not know anything about digital things. I just had the idea, okay, let's build an app, let's build something. And of course, I did not have any money, a little bit out of my event agency, right? But then Corona hit us very hard. Right now, my event agency is not producing any money since, I would say, March, which made it even harder. But I got a grant from the state of Hessen, which is 6 figures, so almost 120,000 euros, which is which I don't need to pay back. How did I get there? First, I realized that there are so many programs, which Tone, for example, mentioned. There are so many programs outside, which you need to understand, really understand what they need from you. Is it the correct program? What your idea fits in. So for example, when you do something digital, which I'm doing, and when you want to help customers outside, then you may not go to a program which is offering medical money, right? Medical for medical ideas or something. So you really need to understand the program for how it's written and for what it's written and what they really want to know from you. This is first. The next one is what I really had a huge problem with, to understand all the words which is written in the program. So sometimes you read the word and you read the sentence and you don't understand that. You really, really need to understand everything what they write on their internet platforms. When you understand this, go grab a dictionary or something, go grab it and look the word up if you don't understand, because this is very, very important when you want to get money from the state. What I can tell you is that money from the state, from my personal viewpoint right now, is easy to get. It's really a hard work, but it's easy to get. Why? The German state, Hessen, and I would say, Ton, you can say, yes, this is correct for Nordrhein-Westfalen. the state wants to provide money to young companies, to good ideas, to people who have ideas and who have the drive to do it. So they really want to give it away to you. You only need to find those programs and those people. Just call them and say, look, I having this idea, this is what I did, and they are really willing to help you. So they want to give away the money and they are willing to help you. And when you have the program, when you understood it correctly, what they need from you, when you have a person, you maybe have the phone number, when you did all these things beforehand, then you are prepared to write something about your idea and to pitch your idea to these people giving you the money. Of course, there's a way to prove that your idea is good, and you need to go through certain steps of this, I don't know the word exactly, of this process. And of course, not everybody will win. But what I can assure you, the money is there and the people are really willing to help. Just 2 weeks ago, I got a phone call with one of these people lending out or giving out money from the state, and he said, Karsten, I got 20 more million, and I need to give it away, and I don't have the applicants. I don't have the people right now. I need some more people who have good ideas. So, right? When you understand this, here it comes when Gudrun comes into the play. I'm a sales guy. I'm really good in selling, but I'm not good in writing how those people of the German state, for example, need to have my thing written, right? So I wrote a business plan and I wrote something nice and really sales stuff, right? And this is a true story. I sent my pitch deck to the German state, and only because of my idea, they said, this is great. I really want to know more about it. But because of my writing, they said, never, ever, you know? So I had the situation, I needed to have somebody who really understands how to write, let's say, a sales copy to these people of the state. And there where Gudrun comes in, right? So I had the situation, I need to have somebody, and I was urgently trying to find somebody, and then Britta of the FI program, which is really great because there's a huge network. So I really recommend joining FI because Britta of FI helped me to find Gudrun, and Gudrun, she really helped me to write the thing as the people giving me the money after know and want how to get it written. Hopefully you got what I mean, right? So Gudrun, from my personal perspective, you saved, as I can say it, you saved my ass, right? Because otherwise, if you didn't did the work, then I would have sent them a sales letter and they said, okay, thank you very much. So can you tell me from your, what are people of the state looking for when they get these letters or when they get these pitch decks?
Yeah, of course. Normally we work with scientists and people who write about one sentence of 4 or 6 lines, and Karsten did it in 6 words. No, not one sentence finished. And it was quite a challenge to make him understand that German public founders want correct formal sentence and writing a little bit boring, but it was fun to do it and it was worth to do it. And this is one of my main things I would like to give to you. It is worth to look at this public foundings, because the more you develop your business, the more expensive you will get later on if you go for private founding. So take this chance and go for public founding. Have a look. There are a lot of institutes they can help. One of them, especially for all foundings, a good address is Hessen Trade and Invest in Hessen. They help everybody and they help to find the best fitting public grant you can apply for. And of course, you can contact me and we will see how we help you. So Karsten, but I think it would be good to give more of your experience to the audience.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know how much time we have. I think Quentin will shortly say, okay, it's enough. I don't know. So here, hopefully you can see it. These are the resources Gudrun just mentioned. And just maybe to finish and to conclude everything all together, the money is there. You just need to get it. You need to know that the people of the German state or of the, I would say, everybody who is selling something to somebody else needs to understand who is the other person. So when you want to get money from a business angel, then you need to really understand this business angel. If you want to get money from the German state, I can tell you, without bringing somebody down, without any evaluation or invalidation of somebody, I would say those people are really scientific based. They need facts. They don't need sales things. This is what I found out, right, Gudrun? So they need to have it scientifically written and nice, in a nice format. Don't put so many pictures into it. But then you've got when you've got a nice idea, then you've got a huge chance to win this grant, okay? And guys, I can tell you, when you get this grant and when you went through all these processes, then this is something like a trophy you hold in your hand. Why? Because if a business angel is coming to you and saying, hey, look, this is my money, of course, he needs to get the money back, but it's only his money, When you are going to a grant, then it's the taxpayers' money. So it's the money from everybody of us. And they have a huge responsibility to get the money, let's say, back or fund it into a company which is having there's the possibility to get the money back because it's tax money. So they really screen you. But when you went through it, from my personal perspective, this is something like a trophy, like a holy grail, because then you can put the nice logo, which we have on our website from Hessen on the logo. And this means we've went through this process and we are really glad. Thank you again, Gudrun. I still owe you a spaghetti eyes. We are really happy and for your help, because without you, I can't even stress this enough. Without knowing a person who knows how to do it, it wouldn't have been so easy. So thank you very much for it. Here are I don't know if you have it already here. Okay, it's not here. You can contact me here on these, on my email address or on my phone. I'm really open to help and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you very much, guys.
And
Thank you,
also
Karsten.
from my side, I would like to invite you to contact me if you have any questions on public founding.
Thanks, Gudrun. Sorry, I interrupted you there. We're going to have just a brief word from Eugenia about the FI program, and then we're going to come back for questions and answers.
Thanks, Quentin. Just one quick slide, and then we'll go to the Q&As. So we have a program at the Founder Institute that is starting in Frankfurt on the 26th of August, and our final admission deadline is August 16th. Just as a reminder, the Founder Institute is really the world's largest pre-seed accelerator. We're not only present in Frankfurt, we're present in 5 other German cities, 180 cities across the world. We have over 4,000 alumni and 14,000 mentors, and it's a program that is really quite structured. 14 weeks program to get people going from an idea to a company. If you have any questions about the program, you can reach out to me, to Quentin, or go directly to the website, fi.co. If you wish to join the program, you can join for free based on attending the webinar, so fi.co join webinar. And currently we've extended the early bird admission price through August 16th. So that's a coronavirus bonus, if we can say that. We're keeping the prices low for this semester. So if you're interested or if you have questions, just contact us. And now we'll go over to the Q&A session.
Thanks, Eugenio. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, you're welcome to. I can also answer questions about FI. I'm a graduate myself. You can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. If you just Google my name, I think I'm the only Quentin Appleby on the planet, unfortunately for me and my privacy. But you're welcome to message me, and I'm very happy to tell you about the program or direct you to any of the speakers tonight. So we've got a list of cool questions, and the first one is for Tone. We'd like to know, is there a Business Angels network in Darmstadt? And I think you know very well of one of those. Could you tell us? And I see you're on mute, by the way.
Helps all the time. And the best thing is to Google it. Then you will find information on the IHK, the Chamber of Commerce. There's not particularly, I haven't found one in Darmstadt, but there you will find the Business Angel Network Germany with their website, and there you can dig in and see whether it's there. I know the people in Frankfurt, but I don't know anybody in the Darmstadt area, but I'm convinced they are there. Google is your best friend.
Thanks, Tone. Another one for you. What do you think about example pitches, people using templates online, and is there a good place to find them that you're aware of?
I mentioned my friend, Mr. Google. If you just Google best pitches for startups, you will find the 20 best startup pitches from Facebook, Airbnb, LinkedIn, Uber, Mint, etc. There is another 20 pitch deck famous in tech. There's another list of 30 pitch decks which you can actually see with videos. I have spent about 2 days looking at these pitches, and some are very nice. Hope I'm not offending anybody, but they are American pitches. It's a different style than we are used to. Sorry, Quentin, don't listen to it. And what I suggest is look at these pitches, but also go to pitch events. And then you see people making mistakes. You see people doing good pitches, and just write things down and do your own thing. That's the best way.
Thanks, Tom.
You can spend a week watching on the internet the best pitches in the world.
Thanks. For the record, I like the American style of pitching. I'm American, if anyone needs to know that. This question's for...
Being a salesman, you always have to look who's your audience. If your audience is stiff European, then you have to address that customer in another way than when pitching in the US. And I've lived there a few years, so I know what the differences are. But when you are in Europe, do as the Europeans do.
Well, you'll notice I put on my collared shirt. I'm not wearing my hoodie tonight.
That's good.
This next question is for Gudrun. How do you find the right public funding? Can you name any agencies?
It's Hessen Trade and Invest. This is a first address. It's also IHKs, and we know some different kinds too. There's a link. I don't know if Karsten has it on his slide behind him.
I put it in the chat.
Förderdatenbank des Bundes. So you can have research there. You can fill in what you like, what you are looking for, what themes you are offering, if you are pre-seed or seed, if you look for funding for whatever, and then they will come up with some suggestions of founding programs. pretty easy. And then please call the contacts and ask if you are fitting in this program, because otherwise it's a waste of time for you and for the public unit. So it's very important to fit in the program. Otherwise, it's a side way that would not be helpful for your business. And there is, even in digital themes, there's a lot of founding, even public founding right now. And you will find it by this link, Förderdatenbank des Bundes.de. Just Google.
Thank you, Gudrun. This question's for Tone and Philip, since you're both so involved with investments. Are you seeing any successful examples of investments during the Corona time since sort of March? Tone, has your angel network made any investments since then?
No, but that is more related to the fact that people go on holiday earlier and tend to come back later. But the business has gone on in the same way. No dip because of Corona. As a matter of personally, I think people have had more time to think about their ideas and their startup ideas, and we are receiving as many pitches and we're having as many discussions before Corona as during Corona. So no impact I've seen there.
And Philip, what about on your side?
Well, generally, I've seen no impact. I advised on over 8 rounds since March, so there had not been a major impact. There has been a bit of a pause in some rounds of financing because people were waiting for the matching facilities, thinking you can get cheap money or money for too high valuations. But that is simply not true because it's a fund-of-fund principle. So you don't get cheap money from the state, at least not through the matching facilities. So they are all also investing on normal or market standard principles. Maybe on the corporate investor side, the processes are a bit slower because in the big corporations, until now, most people are in home office. And I think you can easily work from home or remotely on venture capital deals. That's not a problem. However, internal processes might take a bit longer. So because it's you don't go to your colleague next door and ask for advice or coordinate with them. You have to call them, wait until they are free, etc. So it might take a bit longer. But I see no difference. It will now be very interesting whether we will have a second wave and what's the impact. But I'm very optimistic. And I think there's a lot of money in the market and the money has to be spent. So I think there will be even an increase in venture rounds by the end of the year. This is a bit my perception, but we will see what happens. Nowadays, market perception can change overnight in market sentiment. So, but I'm quite optimistic.
That's good to hear. Staying with you, Philip, what do you think about solopreneurs and VC's opinion of solopreneurs, people that are founding companies by themselves without a team?
I know a couple of them, and I know a couple of them who are very, very successful. And if you don't have a team, you have to build up a team. And that's then the major task of a solopreneur, to get traction, to raise money on his own or her own, and then to build up a great team and to motivate that team. So It is, I think it's harder as a solo entrepreneur than with a team or complete team, but it's doable. Sometimes it really depends on the business model. But generally there are successful examples for that. Although the general advice is not to start a startup by your own, rather having a team. But well, there is no rule without an exception. So
there's another question, which is kind of a follow-on. What should we do if we have a good idea but need a team to get the product ready and need money for that? So it sounds like this person needs money to build the team in order to build the product, in order to realize the idea. Tone, maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Do you think is that possible, or do you not fund ideas?
Yeah. We don't fund ideas, but the most important thing is basically the previous question. You have to find a team, and you can find a team during pitching events. There are websites, German startup, whatever, where you can actually kind of advertise and say, look, I have a brilliant idea. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people who are supposed to do that, and then people will respond to you. Ideas is, no, that's not done by us. No. I had one person who wanted to have 25 million. He was a solo entrepreneur. And I said, well, just assume I have the 25 million in my pocket. If I give it to you and you cross the street and you hit a car, you're dead. And we need a team. He was in fashion retail, but that was his idea. So we love good teams, strong entrepreneur, but it has to be more than just an idea.
There's a question about business forms, and I would start with Tone and pass this back to Philip again. This person writes, I have started an Einzelunternehmen, Eingetragen and Kaufmann, all self-funded. I have to admit, I'm not an expert in German business forms, but I think this is like a personal business, right? If I want to get external funding from business angels and VC to grow this business, then presumably I would have to convert my company to GmbH first. Tone, does the actual legal form of the business matter to you when you make the investment?
It depends on the amount of money, but I would say in 90% of the cases it will be a GmbH, a limited or.
Philip, what about Philip, on your side, do you ever see UGs or these Einzelunternehmen coming through? Or do they get funded?
As Ton said, usually you have a limited liability company or a stock corporation, meaning in Germany a GmbH or an AG or SE, the European form. Most commonly used is the GmbH. The UG is I would say a GmbH light. So it's also a limited company where you don't have to pay in the 25,000, but you can start with theoretically €1, but practically at least 1,000 euros. The problem here is a common problem which founders are facing, which have bootstrapped as a Einzelunternehmen or Gewerbetreibender. Because at some point of time, although all the created assets and IP rights, in particular patents, they have to be contributed to the GmbH, to the limited liability company. And there are tax issues to be considered. So you should really be careful with that, and you should not do that on your own. Because this can have really heavy tax implications, but it's not perfect when you have to convert it, but there are workarounds. Also, a common situation is where you are starting as a solo entrepreneur, and then you find your co-founder, and you onboard your co-founder. There are also tax implications to be considered. So. It's also not the ideal situation, because there is no ideal solution for that, but there exist workarounds. But also here, you should get expert advice, in particular when you do it really before rounds of financing, and in particular when you are calling up pretty high pre-money valuation. So it's a situation I often see, which you're describing.
Thanks, Philip. We have a question for Johannes. Which form of capital is BAFA applicable? BAFA, B-A-F-A.
I know that there was a discussion going on in the industry. As far as I know, definitely, yeah, the GmbH, the equity that you raised, and I'm not sure. Sorry, I have to look that up. If the mezzanine capital is applicable for the BAFA subsidy. Give me a couple of minutes. Sorry, I have to recheck that out.
That's fine. I'm going to skip. The next question was for you as well, but I'll come back to you in a minute. Philip, do we need a lawyer if we do crowd investing, like on CrowdDesk? What do you think?
It's a good question. At least you should think about what's next, what comes after crowdfunding, and there are different forms of crowdfunding. Make yourself familiar whether you need a lawyer or you use their standard form contracts. There is no simple answer to that. And regarding the funding question, convertible loans, you can apply for the INVEST subsidy for convertibles.
Thanks. So a question for Gudrun. I'm skipping down the list a little bit. Do all these funding sources require EU membership? And I'm taking this to mean the couple of links that I've seen for government grant programs. Does your company need to be registered within the EU or even within Germany?
Sometimes this is one of the rules you need to be aware of. You need to found a company in Germany, especially for Exist, for example. Tony mentioned it. But there's one, you can say it and you start your founding in Germany and then spread over the world. So that might not be a problem, at least. But there are some framework you have to be aware of.
There's a question for Karsten. Can you please name the person or organization that has called you and told you that he can't find good ideas to invest in? I guess we can help him. Maybe you don't have to give his name, but can you give us a lead on where we should be looking, what kind of programs have money currently?
Of course, I would say every program which is on these slides or which are posted into the chat is giving away money. So of course, I can't tell the name of the person, but every program has the money and they are really willing to give it away. So this is the only thing I can say.
The next question's for Gudrun, but Karsten, I would ask you this. How difficult is it to get the R&D grant for tech startups? How difficult did you find the process to be, Karsten, for the grant that you applied to, on like a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you say 10 is the hardest thing to get and one is totally easy, then I would say it's 7. But what is easy in life? Can anybody tell me what is easy in life? So I would say if you want to get money which somebody is giving to you, then you need to prove that you are able to receive it and to make more out of it. So I wouldn't say, I would say I really want to repeat, if you understand what the grant is for, what the program is for, what they want to have from you, then you only need to say, look, I'm here, can we talk? And then you propose yourself. But you really need to understand, especially for R&D, what they want. If it's the correct program or if it's not. If you're contacting the wrong person, as Tone said, then you are totally wrong. Then he doesn't understand, he does not want to give you money. So easy.
I would just add on to that my own experience. I recently applied for the Innovationsgründerprogramm, IGP, which is from the BMWI, from Berlin. And the process was not technically difficult. It's hard when someone says like, if it's difficult, but the bureaucracy of filling out all of the forms and going through the multiple rounds was kind of crushing. I found it really very difficult, like a 9 in sort of bureaucracy difficulty. So yeah, it's definitely not easy.
But there's a really good hint, Quentin, when I can
yeah.
add this. What really, which is a recommendation from my side, just when you don't understand the words, just grab a dictionary and try to understand the words. Really, this helped me tremendously to understand what they want, because they use words I don't understand, and then you run out of knowledge, then you don't understand what they want, and of course then you skip it, and then it looks really hard to do it. But when you understand the words, then you understand what they want, right? So.
Gudrun, do you have anything to add about how difficult it is to get the R&D grant for tech startups?
No, it's not so difficult. You need to understand what they are looking for. They look for future jobs. And if you can offer this and you offer good technical ideas, they will be very helpful. Even the public units are very helpful and service orientated. They answer all your questions with pleasure, because they need good ideas for Germany and people who are willing to start something up. So they are happy to help you. Be honest, be true, and say, this is what I can, and there are there are no mistakes. I do not know how I can manage this, and they will help you, and they will link you to people like me or others, and we will match teams and give other offers in our network to help these people, because these people are our future. And this is what I think Germany understood right now. Not too quick, but it starts.
Thank you.
And if
Johannes,
I may
go ahead,
add,
Karsten.
because I think, as you mentioned, Quentin, you give it a 9 for the hardest part, you know, to go through it. Because of the willingness of the people, they are so lovely. Everybody I had on the phone, of course, Gudrun and all these people I called on the V-Bank and all these officials, they are so nice. They are really willing to help. You can ask them the stupidest question you ever like, and they're really willing to help. So go for it.
It's good to hear. Okay,
Yeah.
Johannes, back to you. Tell us about BAFA.
Mute myself. Yes, thanks for giving me the time, because I really want to make sure that I don't say anything wrong, because if we are on the regulatory framework, really have to look up what you do and what you're saying. I was just looking up because the crowdfunding industry was applying that the most used form of a financial instrument, the so-called subordinated loan, would also get the Investzuschuss. But that is not so at the moment. They're still lobbying, or we are still lobbying for that, because we think an investor who puts in 25,000 could apply for this Zuschuss as well. But at the moment, it's only feasible for really hard GmbH-Anteile and so-called convertible loans, as Philipp mentioned them earlier. You can do convertible loans via a crowdfunding campaign, but there is a but that comes with this process, because when you do a campaign where you hand out convertible loans or GmbH-Anteile, the legal constraints are much higher. You have to write a prospectus. A prospectus is not a flyer; it's like a 100-pager that you have to hand out. When you stick to subordinated loans, you don't have to write a prospectus. You are much faster, but yeah, sure. On the downside, you don't have the Investzuschuss. So there is some benefits, but also some cons coming with the campaign.
Thank you. I think that clarifies it. There's another question for you, Mr. Laub. With your platform, we're able to raise capital without handing in a piece of paper. How is it possible? Because we need it right now. I wonder if they mean without handing in equity. I'm not sure.
I think the question was clarified later when I read through the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, to honestly, the campaign that are usually done via our platforms or pages, they don't hand out any contracts because our software is just not feasible to deal with paper contracts. So we thought digitally from the first second. And what you need is you need contracts, but they are not paper-based. So they are in the software and you click them through like an online shopping process, but that is in the back end much more complex because it's the most regulated scene we are in when we talk about financial instruments. But we make it look very easy for the investor and for the issuer, for the project, for the startup. That's our aim, and that's what we are doing every day.
Staying with Johannes, how much time should we budget for a crowd investing campaign?
Yeah, that's not a question I can answer in 2 sentences, but it depends on which status you are, because I think there was another question for whom is it applicable, there are different phases, and that depends how much time you have to put in. I wouldn't recommend starting without project, without product, and without network, because in that phase, who would invest in your company? You don't have anything to show. You have probably a nice idea and probably a nice website, but it's just not enough to put a website online and say, okay, now you can give me money. That people won't do that. They need a trigger point. So either you set a website up and you trigger your network, and normally you underestimate your network. I was too shy actually to ask in the beginning for raising capital from family and friends, but it was much more complicated back in 2010, 2011 when we first started our company. Nowadays, it's kind of easy because there is a standardized program or standardized softwares as we provide them. And when you just trigger your network, it's very easy because you just have the website, you make an email, you send them, you call a little bit, and then it can be done. That's something Cyrene did that I showed in my presentation. Thinking about Sono Motors that raised 2.4 million until today, they put more time in it. They had a PR campaign coming with it. They had pictures they made, they had texts they wrote for the campaign. But I think for myself, a good founder team that already is on the track to present their product to the outside via a pitch deck or via talking to people, they are always feasible, or they're always capable of doing a campaign in a couple of weeks, and because it shouldn't distract too much from your actual work. But the campaigns we see, like Cyrene, they did in a couple of days, just a little bit of calling, just a little bit of networking. And so that's the answer I can give you at that stage, but it's already individual to your status, to your project you have.
Thanks. I think you touched on this just now. The next question, when do you recommend is a good time to start crowd investment campaigns? What are the milestones and traction needed, and does it negatively impact investments later on?
This very, very good question, very interesting questions. I think there are different good points where you can start. As that, I wouldn't start without a product, without a network, because yeah, as that, people won't invest, they won't give you money for nothing. So when you have your first when you have your network, you can start very early. You can say, okay, I have a good idea, but I need money to create my MVP. That's a good starting point. When you have a B2C product, that's very good starting point when you have your product ready. When you combine these different kind of equity from raising from business angel or coming from other sources, because when you have a B2C product, you already gather fans and early adopters, and they can not only buy your product, but they can invest in your company at that stage. And that's something people really want to do. They want to help. They want to be part of your journey, because they have boring bank jobs and they really want to be involved in such a very fast moving company. And when you start very early, you have your first early adopters, and you can always approach them later on. So we have companies that are considering campaigns that make millions in revenue, have many customers, and they say, okay, now we are done with the equity raising. We now want to raise mezzanine or even debt capital from our buyers, from our customers. And so, and to put it in a nutshell, there are different points to start, but I wouldn't recommend starting at, it can't be the first step. It needs to be the second step. And then you have different milestones where you can actually use it.
Thanks. Just out of my own curiosity, is there a good time of year to do crowd investment? Or do people invest more in the spring or the fall, or do you not see any pattern?
Yeah, definitely we see a seasonality. It's kind of, it surprised me in the beginning with the best months we always see is December. I don't know, because from my point of view, most bonuses get paid out in March, something like that. But people tend to invest at the end of the year. So I would say the last quarter of the year is the best time to raise. But it's there's no bad timing, but the best timing would be in the last quarter. There was another question I just skipped. If there is probably, if it, how you put it, if it distracts other investors or if it hinders other campaigns.
It's negative for future investment.
Yeah, there are some investors who don't like the crowd capital in it. But that, in the beginning, it was really hard for startups who had crowd capital in their cap table. That changed in my point of view, because they learned how to deal with these investors. Most of the time, these investors have not a saying in the company. So there's only, when there's an exit event, they get a share. And that's, from my point of view, that's very fair, because they invested very early in the company and they have to have a cash out in the end. But what I would recommend for a startup is always to have a clause in it where you can repay, where you can make a sudden redemption. So if there's an investor coming in and it would in any way harm the campaign, it can be a good option just to pay out the crowd investors early, so that at least you have a golden parachute, not a golden parachute, but you have a parachute when it might hurt the campaign. But at least, as long as they don't have any voting rights, it doesn't hurt actually in your normal doing.
We just have one last question tonight, and I would ask several people this. Maybe everyone's familiar with these UNICEF goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. They're quite popular online and in startup communities. These are things like, committing to education and health, clean drinking water, human rights. How much of an impact do you see these SDG goals making with your investments or with access to government capital? A company that's supporting one of these SDGs or focused on it, are they more likely to get funded through VC or through angel investment? And Johannes, I would just start with you. Do you see any impact for companies that are sort of more socially focused?
Yeah, definitely we do, because we are pretty close to these projects, because I don't know where the connection comes from, but many startups, many platforms we serve are obeying these rules and acting according to that. So we have a platform for the Austrian government that wants to fulfill or wants to reach their ESG goals via such a crowd investing platform where you can invest in third world countries. Austrians can invest now all over the world. And because I think we open projects that are probably not feasible for VC, because he has to look at the numbers. That's just his business model. But when you want to go broader and when you want to have a purpose and you are repaid not only with euros and dollars, but with having a share in a project that you really are, that you go with your heart with, then crowd investing, crowdfunding can really take place in that. And so to say it short, yes, we definitely see there is an advantage with that project.
Thanks. Gudrun, in government financing, what are you seeing with grant writing? Are companies that are focusing on SDGs, do they have an advantage?
Excuse me, can you repeat the question? I'm not sure to understand it right.
Are companies that are more socially focused, especially on these UNICEF sustainability goals, you know, like clean drinking water, health, human rights?
There are some public programs focused on things like that. And the EU Querschnittsziele, I don't know how you translate it correctly, are always, the EU foundings are always be aware of this. But we have in Hessen, a new founding incubator called Hessen Social Entrepreneur. You can link with them and we'll get some help there, but it's not the only thing you can generate funding from. There is not, some special programs are focused on these issues.
Thank you. Tone, what about your angel network? Do you have people that are particularly interested in these sustainability goals?
I tend to be honest. No. Of course, it's in the back of our mind. We have started a small group of 4 people and devoting a little bit of time to sustainability, but it's still in the early stages. We want to see what startups there are and give them a bit of help, if possible, and financing. But I found it difficult to convince or to talk about this subject because people are not familiar with it. But it'll take some time, and then it will definitely be a little bit more important. If you look at the European Union programs, you've seen on this one slide which I presented, there are a lot of sustainability things. We call our group the Circular Economy Group, and we're working on that. And there are here in North Rhine-Westphalia, there is a movement, I think it's KUER, and they used to call themselves green. So it's coming. It's more and more.
Thanks. And I would just end with Philip with the same question, Philip. The sustainability goals, do you find that sort of ethically focused startups have a better chance with venture capitalists?
Well, generally what one could say is that the ISG, so environmental, social, governmental issue becomes more and more important for investments and for investors and for corporates. And also it goes hand in hand with corporate social responsibility, where you are also now obliged as a company of a certain size to prepare certain reports on your corporate social responsibility measures and so forth. So the issue gets more and more important. Is it the only decisive criteria for an investor one has to be honest, unless you're a social entrepreneur, you must say no, because your idea, the market, and the team is also very important. But I think that you can easily fulfill or try to fulfill those goals, or some of those goals, because most of them are really common sense. So it is a very interesting development, and it's very interesting that it comes now on the public agenda, because when you look at those goals, they are against child work or child labor, they call for climate action and so forth. And I think these are all goals which society should aim for, also for gender equality. I think some of those items should be really common sense and should be followed by every company and by every startup.
Thank you, Philip. That concludes the evening and all of our questions. I'd just like to thank everybody who showed up, all of our speakers, Gudrun, Tone, Philip, Johannes, Karsten. I know all of your time is valuable, and I really appreciate you bringing all of your expertise here and sharing it with the community. For participants, if you enjoyed what you saw tonight, if you feel like you learned something, I would invite you to check out the FI program. We're starting a new cohort at the end of August. You can apply for free at fi.co/join/webinar. If you forget that, you can look up my name, and it's all over my Facebook page and my LinkedIn page. FI Frankfurt, Founder Institute Frankfurt, also has a LinkedIn page, and we're going to post this video and lots of other things there. So join us, and I hope to see you at the end of August. And yeah, you're welcome to contact us for further information. And don't forget, the link is free for the application. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Appreciate all your time.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye.
Have a good holiday.